Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about my experience as a film student and just some tips if you are a film student and considerations if you're thinking about going to film school. So a little bit of background about me. The summer before I went into college, I was undecided and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just graduated from my private high school in 2017 and I really liked learning a lot of different things. So I really didn't have any sort of idea what I wanted to do, although I did know that I liked my film class a lot in high school. My dad's a professor, so I was able to go to school completely tuition free. I only had to pay some expenses at the beginning of each semester, which is incredibly fortunate, and I'm very, very thankful, but I know that is not the case for a lot of people. So it may be kind of scary to be undecided, especially if you're putting such a large investment in college, and I would highly recommend to people who don't know what they want to do necessarily, maybe try out community college for a year or two, just because it's so hard to tell someone to go into debt for something they don't really know about. However, if you are set and you know that you want to have the college experience, go for it. Just know that it is very expensive and usually film schools will be pretty expensive. So I went to Quinnipiac University, which is not a film school, but it does have a film program. And it's a growing film program, and actually it's pretty good. The facilities were promised to be improved, but even though they were never, that promise was never met, they're still pretty good. There's plenty of cameras and everything from the equipment room, and some of the professors there are really, really great. But you know, do your research, see what people have to say about your particular film school before you go ahead and make the jump. Honestly though, you're gonna find a way to fit in no matter where you go. So let's say that you get a good scholarship somewhere else, I would highly recommend that you look there. There's no harm in transferring if it doesn't work out for you. Another thing to consider is that a lot of my experience from school, a lot of my learning that happened there happened from me doing projects and going the extra mile, going out on my own to find projects to do. Now, it's a lot easier though to do projects when you have some sort of structure. You have someone telling you that you should do that, and you have a lot of resources there. For me, like the main push for that was I had a professor who I really, really liked. She was my professor for my first film class, like her first general intro to film, FTM 101. And I really, really liked her. I really liked her style, and she focused a lot on documentary film, something that I had never really thought of. But then she showed one of her favorite films, the film that actually got her into documentary production, and I loved it. And I realized this is kind of a great way to make my interest, which is learning, which I loved learning, I always have, and hearing people's stories and kind of connect that to my love for film. So yeah, I decided freshman year, about halfway through, that I really wanted to focus on documentary production. And so the next year I took an independent study with her, and I took another one the next year. So I was able to really take advantage of the resources I had there, and she was an excellent professor too. School is expensive. Think about it before you fully commit, especially for film. I mean, I know that there's a stigma, but if you are going into film school, don't just breeze by. It is pretty easy to just get A's if you go to class and do the work, but go beyond that. Go to class, do the work, make a relationship with professors, make relationships with other people at the school so that you can make the most of the time that you have there, and you're really getting your bang for the buck that way. You don't necessarily need to know exactly what kind of path you're gonna take when you go in there. I mean, you're only 18, you haven't really experienced much else in life than what you've already been accustomed to. So this is really the time to experiment, get to know what you like doing. It could be writing, it could be production, it could be all about cameras, it could be editing, it could be documentary, a particular kind of film. So really experiment with your first few years there, and maybe even do it beforehand in the summer. I know a lot of the students there who are really good at what they did had some previous experience making films just, with an iPhone. Don't be afraid to do it with just your phone camera, whatever. Because really the sooner that you know what you like doing, the more you can take advantage of while you're at school. So the next point I have is take advantage of every single opportunity that you have. For me personally, this wasn't taking advantage of some paid programs at my school. At Quinnipiac, one of the really good things about it is that they have a lot of internships, and they have a particular program called QU in LA for School of Communications, where you live at LA for a semester, and you have a semester there, you take classes, and you have an internship there. But it costs a lot of money, and I lived at home. I already had tuition for free, so I was not willing to pay that much for that experience. I was able to find an internship close to home that I actually learned a lot from. Hearing some of the experiences from people who did the class is pretty hit or miss, but if you're paying just as much as you are to go to the regular school, go for it. And I'm sure there's tons of programs like that in other film schools. But something that you can do for free, you can always do for free, is make projects of your own. See if there's a way to do independent studies at your school. Talk with your friends and see if they'd also be interested in joining the independent study. At my school, we don't really make a serious project, a serious film until our senior film. But if you want to go ahead and take advantage of the time you have there, if you have friends and you want to make a film, get together and do it. There's nothing stopping you really. And you can make a low budget film, no problem really. And like I said, the most that you learn is going out there and doing it. I've filmed maybe 2 big projects and several small ones, and I am still learning. I learn more and more every time. I get better and better at pulling focus. I learn more and more about the camera and what cameras I like, what lenses I like. So just do it. Just keep doing it. I know I need Shia LaBeouf in here or something, but yeah, seriously, just do it. Another big thing that you can do while you're on campus is be active in student groups. There's almost always a film society at the school you go to, and if you really, really want to have one and they don't have one, just make one. I mean, worst comes to worst, it's you sitting alone watching movies, which sounds like a typical weekend anyway. So get that started. Don't be afraid to get that started. My film society was really, really active, and they had film festivals, which I was actually a part of. They had a production every year, and I think maybe 2 productions a year. Unfortunately, I never really got fully involved because I was working 3 part-time jobs. I was in an accelerated program, so I had a lot of classes. I basically did not have the time for it, but really that is one of my biggest regrets, is not being more involved on campus, because it's a really nice way to make friends. I did have some people that I talked to from classes that were in it, and I kind of regret not being able to spend more time with them and make some great stuff. So really do that, especially if you're living on campus. It's a great way to make friends and at the same time bolster your career. Another point I have is to try hard in all of your classes. I feel like there's kind of a stigma of film, especially communications in general, being the degree that people choose to do just because they want to go to college and they want easy A's. And I'm going to be honest, at least in my experience, it is very easy to get A's without doing much. But it's easier to get A's, and it's easier to take advantage of the time that you have there if you try your hardest, try to find something, even if it's just like an English class, which I had some English classes that were absolute drag, so it was very difficult, but try to find a way to put your passion into each class. For example, I had a history class where I did an independent study actually for Cambodian history because I want to make a Cambodian history documentary. But even if I didn't do an independent study, I could have done a history class for another thing, thinking about, oh, how can I make a documentary about this? What are the aspects of research that could go into this? And the same is for film. If you like writing, learning about history is a great way to do it. Maybe see if you can make a project where you write a script in that time period. And really, as long as you have passion, your professors will be very happy with that, and they'll be excited to teach you. They'll be excited to help you with anything you need. And I mean, I hate the stigma of like a teacher's pet, but really having good relationships with your professors not only helps you in your classes, because they're more likely to be nicer to you, maybe let you do projects that are kind of the exception because you're so passionate about it. But also it makes such great connections that you have. For example, I had a professor, which I only had for 1 semester. She was an adjunct professor for just a general required film history class. But I have a long-lasting relationship with her because now I'm teaching Japanese to her daughter. And the reason that happened is because we would talk, after every class. I'd be like, oh, I really enjoyed this class. I love learning about this. And you can't do that if you're genuine about it, because people can tell. Just try to find your passion, be genuine, and be excited about learning. Obviously that's easier said than done, but try your best to find a way to connect it to your own passions and interests. Again, going back to taking initiative and taking advantage of your own opportunities. This can go beyond the college campus. Some schools don't really allow you to use equipment other than for school projects, but many will let you use equipment for whatever you want. Start a freelance business, film things for local organizations. There's so many things out there that need to be made that just need people to make it. So try to fill up your time just making things, because really the more you make things, as I said before, the better you'll get at making them. So this is the last one that I have, and it's kind of an iffy one. So take this with a grain of salt. I know that I'll explain this in a second. Say yes to as many opportunities as you can. So when I was in college, I said yes to almost every opportunity that was presented to me. When a professor would ask me for help in a different class, like to help be a model for their effects person, I said yes. If someone was asking me, hey, could you be like a gaffer for this? I said yes. It really goes into that, one, building relationships, and two, building up your portfolio. Another thing is to take initiative and reach out to people first. If you want to do a project, but you're afraid to ask, do it anyway. There's no harm in asking, and if anything, they'll give you a no and it's fine. They're not gonna hate you. Also, the more you help out a professor and the more that they know how much you do on the side and how skilled you are, the more likely they are to suggest you for projects. 3 times now, I've had professors refer to me whenever someone needed help on a project. One of the times that was super exciting, the professor I mentioned earlier who got me into documentaries, after I took, I think, 4 classes with her, 5 including the senior capstone, she recommended me to go to India with 2 other professors. Originally, she was gonna go to India to help film a documentary, but her film was accepted into Sundance at the same time that they were gonna go. I just got an email from her asking, do you wanna go to India? And I was like, yeah. So I got an all expense paid trip to India where I was able to film and help with the documentary. It was super exciting, obviously, to travel to India. I'd never been there before, especially since I had never had enough money to study abroad. So that was really, really exciting. And it did help a lot with me knowing what it's like to film a documentary pretty much on your own when the other people don't really know much about camera work in a foreign country. So it was hard work, but it was so nice, and it was a full expense paid trip to India. And I'll probably make another video talking about my experience making a documentary in India another time. That opportunity would not have come to me if I had not taken the extra mile, if I had not come to her asking to do independent studies, if I had not come to her with projects that I was doing on the side. Seriously, do as much as you can, share it with your professors, and they will be excited, because there are those students who just slack off, and there's those students who are there just to get easy A's. So if you stand out above the rest and you really are passionate and you put in the hard work, then you will get a lot done. Now, something about the saying yes to as many things as possible is know when you're about to go over the edge. I was about to go over the edge pretty much around the India thing. Obviously, the India trip was something I could not say no to, and I really did enjoy it, but it was at a time where I was super overloaded with other projects. I was already losing a lot of weight from health issues. I was super stressed. I had just been diagnosed with anxiety, but I didn't have time to get my medication before I went, and it was basically just a really bad time for me. But I went anyway, and it was completely fine while I went, but when I came back, I was about to have a complete breakdown. I was malnourished. I was overwhelmed with all the stuff that I had to catch up to because I was gone for 2 weeks. And that was just when I drew the line in the sand and I said, okay, I need to make time for myself. I quit one of my jobs, so I only had 2 part-time jobs then, and I told people who I was working on projects with, I need to take more time off, which is hard, especially when you made this promise to someone that you're gonna be working on this thing, but you're not going to be able to make anything good if you aren't able to take care of yourself. So say yes to as many things as possible, but know how much you have in your schedule. It might be easier if you don't have 3 part-time jobs like I have, but still, one of the people I worked on with the documentary, she didn't have a part-time job, but she was part of a sorority. She was part of like 3 different charity events. She was a leader in almost all of those. She had a lot of classes, some responsibilities with her church. So it's still really easy to get overloaded if you say yes to many things. But you will get through it. I got through it. I'm fine now. I graduated last semester and I got the top communication student because I think I worked so hard, but it's not something that I would necessarily recommend fully because I did make sacrifices. I didn't have a lot of friends at school. I didn't do really a lot of extracurricular activities, so I think you really need to have a balance. I would have much rather have a few close friends from school than some award that honestly, I mean, I'm very gracious and I'm very happy to have received it, but I would rather have friends than an award. So that's just something that I really regret about my college experience. And this goes for whatever major you're in. If for whatever reason you're watching this, even if you're not a film major, the college is a great place to find friends. So even if it means putting off college loans, paying back college loans, try to make time for friends as well, because it is difficult to go through those tough times without friends. Luckily, I have a super supportive, now fiance, and my professors were super supportive as well and understanding if I needed to hand in a project late. But try to make close friendships while you're still young and still in college. I know it's not too late for me. I'm talking like it's the end of the line for me, but I do regret not having put in the extra time at school. I was pretty much on campus only for courses and that's it. So yeah, anyway, on that happy note, film school can be a lot of fun. There's plenty of more YouTube videos about it. Don't only take, my take on it, because obviously mine is very unique. Everyone's experience is unique. So yeah, that's about it for me. Something that you can do right now if you are going into film school, before you go, I highly suggest that 1, you start creating your own stuff, but 2, you start to learn how cameras work, or how editing programs work, depending on what you want to do. Honestly, I suggest that you do both. Just look at some simple tutorials on YouTube, look at tutorials on how to do Premiere, just basic editing before you go in, and you're gonna be miles ahead of everyone else there. Same goes for camera. Know what ISO is, know what aperture is, know what focal length is, know what the difference between different lenses are, and you will be miles ahead. It honestly took me way too long to learn that after I was already in film school, and I think a lot of people still don't know about how to do that, and they already graduated. So you're gonna be miles ahead of others if you take that extra step before you even go to know how to work the things technically, so that when you go into school, you can just build upon that and then start going more into your creative side. So yeah, that's it. Sorry about rambling so much. If you're interested in more videos from me, this YouTube channel is mostly focused on productivity, healthy habits, getting your life together while I get my life together. Basically, it's more of an accountability tool for me, so that not only am I practicing keeping my editing skills and camera skills up, but I'm also keeping track of my stuff, being able to stay liable with my work. And I'm also going to Japan soon, so if you like Japan, maybe subscribe and you get to see what it's like to be an ex-film student in Japan. Hopefully I'll be making documentaries there as well. Subscribe if you'd like more tips on going about your life and being a creative, especially because we only have one life and you have to make the most of it while you're here. So thank you.